The Magnificent Battle, Merlin, Arthur's Court, and the Mistress of Time, by the Magus. Read by the Magus. Chapter 53, A Gift for Morgan Le Fay. Asher and Krista knew that they were about an hour behind the knights who had kidnapped Breuse. Both girls had taken riding lessons and were pretty good horse people. It took a little time for them to become acquainted with the particular idiosyncrasies of their horses, but soon they were riding along at a promising gait. They knew they had to pace themselves carefully. They really didn't know what they were going to do when they found the knights. They certainly weren't going to fight them. But they had to know where they were taking Breuse without being discovered, and then try to find a way to rescue him, using their brains, not their arms. The road was a good one for riding. It was relatively straight, and when it curved, it did so in an exceptionally lush and green countryside. The sky was blue, and the air was clear. The sun was bright and warm, and looked down on the two girls approvingly. The horses seemed to be enjoying their freedom from the stable and ran almost effortlessly. If the girls had not realized that they were on a nearly impossible task, they would have really enjoyed themselves. From time to time, the girls came upon a crossroad. They would stop and look down each direction for a moment. There were fields and forests and lakes. There were the occasional carts drawn by oxen, loaded down with hay or firewood or agricultural goods. Most were driven by men who walked along beside, but some were empty. Only children were riding in the carts, but never the men. It was almost as if there was something wrong with riding in a cart. The girls would wave at the people they met. The people would look back at the girls, but be somewhat stupefied by two young damoiselles out by themselves on horseback. It was not a usual sight. The girls came to a stream. The water level did not appear high, and it seemed easy enough to cross. They splashed into the middle and let their horses stop and drink. The temperature was pleasant, and they had not pushed their horses hard, so they were not excessively thirsty, but drank contentedly. "It's really beautiful here, isn't it?" Krista asked. "It would be wonderful if we could just enjoy it. I have a feeling that we will get back here someday, though it may be a long time from now." "I hope so, although it will probably change a lot in a millennium or two," Asher responded. The two girls rode for hours. They wished that they were trained to follow trails so that they could tell if they were, in fact, following the knights and Breuse. But the road was well-traveled, and the tracks of horses, carts, and wagons were everywhere. They counted on the falconer's assurance that the knights would go straight to their destination, and that it would be somewhere along this road, which seemed to be a major one. Then, lost in thought, the girls and their horses rounded a slight curve, and there they were. They were ahead of them, were the 5 knights and Breuse. They stopped immediately, moved their horses to the side of the road, out of sight of the knights, and got off. "Oh," Krista moaned, as she realized that her body had contoured to the horse's back and didn't want to rearrange itself. "I hope they didn't see us," Asher said. "I don't think they did," Krista replied. "And we are safe here in these woods. At least we know we're on the right trail." "Yeah, I saw Breuse. One of the knights had him on his horse with him. It looked as if his hands were tied, I guess so he could not get away," Asher said. "What do we do now?" Krista asked. Asher thought. "I guess we follow along behind them, just far enough back so that they don't know they are being followed." "Okay, then what?" Krista asked. I guess we'll deal with that when we get there," Asher responded. The girls tied their horses to a tree off to the side of the road, and slowly crept back toward it so they could see where the knights were. They didn't want to lose sight of them. "I'm beginning to feel pretty good about all of this," Krista said to Asher. "About what?" Asher asked. "About having the Merlin, call us back in time. Wow, just think about it. First of all, he said it was something about us, some special quality that makes us uniquely qualified among 75 generations to save our forefather. Then he said something about a prophecy." Krista could feel her enthusiasm for this project growing. "And then he said we were the ones to change history. Can you imagine it? Change history!" Asher tried to pretend that she didn't hear. Krista was given to episodes of over-enthusiasm, and this was one. Actually, it's not that we can change history. It's really that history will be different if we fail in our task. Isn't that changing history? What is changing history if it isn't that history will be different because of what we do, Krista responded. No matter where we are, no matter what time we live in, no matter anything else, history will be different because we lived and acted. Krista was really getting into this. The philosophical implications were beginning to unfurl in her mind. If we live, Asher responded. That assumes that we will live. At this point, that is not even a sure thing. If we can't rescue this boy, or do whatever else it is that we are destined to do, we won't live, and neither will our parents, or on our grandparents' side, and neither will 75 generations of people from here to the future and beyond. This is not so cool. Well, I think it is, and I think we are the ones to change history. I feel so very lucky. I feel so strong. I feel like we can change the world. Krista was moving to euphoria. Change history, will ye? Came a voice from behind the girls. There, standing by the horses, were two knights. We will let Morgan Le Fay decide that, said the voice. The girls were shocked that these two had sneaked up on them while they were not paying attention. Asher and Krista looked at one another. Run! Asher yelled, and the girls started running off down the road in the direction from which they had been coming. It took little time for the knights, who by now were back on their horses, to catch them. The first reached down and grabbed Asher and pulled her up on the horse. Then the second grabbed Krista and pulled her, kicking and screaming, onto his horse. Those knights took the girls back to the palfreys the girls had borrowed, and put them on them, but held onto their reins so that they could not get away. Soon they had joined the 5 who were escorting Breuse to the castle of Morgan Le Fay. Ah, now we have a fine gift for our lady, Morgan, grunted one of the knights. Not only do we have the boy, but these 2 maidens. They will surely be missed at Camelot. They will be worth a small treasure to the honorable fools who pride themselves so greatly on their loyalty and their protection of ladies and damoiselles. Too bad all the knights of the Round Table are off hunting the Grail, a fool's quest. There will be no champion to come for them. His fellow knights joined him in vulgar laughter. The knights congratulated themselves on their good fortune. They made a happy group. They knew that Morgan Le Fay was going to be well satisfied with their work, and that they would be rewarded accordingly. The conversation then went on. And what is it that these knights are searching for? A grail? Asked one. A wine bowl, a cup, maybe a fancy chamber pot. No better than a cow's horn for holding ale, I say. Who has ever seen a grail? What good is it? I say it is some imagining of one of their heroes. You know, Lancelot or Galahad or Percival. I say they will hunt forever. It is madness, and all of the rest think they should adopt the madness themselves, because if they don't, someone will say they are cowards. Or the other knights won't like them as much. Or worst of all, someone will call them unworthy knights, as if anybody other than they cared. Speak for yourself, said a rusty knight. As for the grail, there is no such thing. I care not for these things you see in dreams, or that flash into your heads while drinking. I have found from very painful experience that those things I see while in a drunken stupor are gone and forgotten after a day or 2 of an aching head. I once saw a dragon breathing fire after I had drunk 17 cups of ale and fallen off my horse. When I woke up the next day, the sun was baking my armor, but there was no dragon in sight. There is no grail. Just as there are no dragons breathing fire, they are tricks ale or wine plays on the minds of those who try to drink the barrel dry. Yet another knight, Dag by name, also less than one in shining armor, somewhat rusty, and obviously not too concerned either with personal or armorial hygiene, was more interested in his captives than the grail. These are passing fair maidens. One of them would make a fine bride for me. God save your bride, said another. It would be better to make a brachet, that is, a dog, your bride than any fair maiden. What maiden could live with you, with your stinking feet, not to mention your breath? Why, if the devil himself came to you dressed as a maiden who was in love with your charms, your breath would singe her hair and befoul her mood and send her back to hell, longing for the sweet sulphurous smoke of home, said another. Yea, your breath might even cause the devil to repent of the creation of such evil, and ask the forgiveness of his adversary, said another, laughing, as he added to the merriment. Stick to brachets, or maybe pigs, added yet another. Get one that likes to wallow in dung. She will snuggle up beside you and keep you warm at night, if she can hold her breath till morning. The others joined in, guffawing at Dag's expense. The mood among the knights was jovial as they made their way around the small hillock, in the direction of a foreboding castle that the girls knew was up ahead.